Welcome to the Credit Plug channel. So for today, we're going to be doing another live, and I'm actually starting to enjoy these a lot. It just allows me to get a lot of information across and just get my thoughts out. So I wanted to piggyback off the live we did the other day about Navy Federal. So again, Navy Federal has had a lot of changes recently. And again, a lot of the feedback that I'm getting is from you guys who are telling me, look, it's harder for me to get approved for credit cards, things like that. So in today's live, I wanted to give you guys some alternatives, some other financial institutions. Now, we know Navy Federal is the biggest and the best, but there are over 5,000 credit unions throughout the United States. So there's a lot of other alternatives. But before I get into that, I just wanted to address a couple things. Now, just give me a couple minutes and then we're going to get into it. But what I notice is that whenever we do videos about Navy Federal, right, certain people get very emotional, and it's sort of this emotional attachment to Navy Federal for whatever reason. And one of the things was, you know, for one, I'm not qualified to speak about banking, credit, and finance. And in addition to that, I'm part of the reason why, you know, a lot of these things are happening where loan defaults are increasing, people are running off on banks, and banks are being forced to change their underwriting criteria. So I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. So I understand, you know, we have new subscribers, maybe people who just started following a year ago, however, but you know, we started putting videos out back in 2019. So that was over about 5 years ago now. But just to give you some context, right? So I didn't get onto YouTube to be a YouTuber, right? You know, a lot of people get onto YouTube to be a content creator. That wasn't the case. I actually started working in the banking sector. So when I was in college, I had an internship at a community development financial institution, about a 30 to 35 hour a week internship. So it's basically almost a full-time job, right? And so I got paid for this. So basically what I did, you guys can look it up. You can Google it. You can actually go on my LinkedIn resume and it'll show all the way dating back to 2008 during the first economic recession or the Great Recession, right? A CDFI, again, is a community development financial institution, a nonprofit financial institution. So usually they have some type of social mission, whether that's affordable housing. We work with microfinance, international microfinance, affordable housing, social enterprise, things like that. So I worked in lending and advisory services. So again, that's how I got my first introduction into financial paperwork, right? Because what would happen is a lot of these borrowers would have what's called covenants. So covenants are basically stipulations on loan agreements. And what a lot of these CDFIs required was that these borrowers, and again, these borrowers are housing developers, other microfinance institutions, and they would borrow, you know, millions of dollars. Part of my role at, and this was Calvert Social Investment Foundation or Calvert Foundation, was to monitor the covenant compliance. So what I would have to do, I'd have to go into these loan agreements, right, these legal documents, and see what those stipulations are. Some of them were quarterly reporting, so they'd have to send in financial statements, balance sheets. They sometimes would have to send in like these just different reports on how their businesses are operating. I was in charge of monitoring that. So that basically gave me my first sort of foray into the financial space, right? And again, at the time, it was just a job. So anyways, you know, fast forward, you know, I'm a young adult. I'm learning about credit, going through these trial and errors where, you know, I would go to these different institutions to seek out, you know, how to get access to credit. Because again, one of the things that I realized after coming out of undergrad and even part of graduate school was the fact that there were a lot of decisions where credit became a factor. Getting a car, getting an apartment, right? A lot of these management companies in these large cities, you know, let's say like Bozzuto Group, they're going to be looking at your paperwork, your maybe your tax returns, your pay stubs, your credit, maybe even a criminal background check. So what I realized was that a lot of the roadblocks that I was experiencing was due to the fact that I didn't have my credit in order, or maybe I didn't have my documents in order. So I went through this whole learning experience. What I would do when I was building credit, I would go to these different institutions and I would apply. whether I got approved or denied, I would then take that information. Okay, where did they pull from? What documents did they require? And so I went through this period where I was gathering this information, and slowly but surely I was improving my credit, improving my financial condition. And then it got to a point about in 2018. That's when I came up with the idea from 2008 to 2018. So that's a 10-year period where I'm doing trial and error. I'm doing firsthand research and then gathering all that information and then get to the point where, I have good credit. I'm able to purchase a home. I'm able to finance things. I'm just in a better financial situation, whether that's, how much money I was earning or, my actual credit score and credit profile. So what dawned on me was that, okay, all this personal testimonies that I gathered over these years, maybe I can share this with other people, because what I noticed was that a lot of people were deficient in a lot of areas, especially when it came to credit. So then I said, let me package this information together. So what I did was I went out, I bought the domain creditplug.com, got the trademark, got the logo, everything. And then I started posting on Instagram. So on Instagram, they kept deactivating my account for whatever reason. So that happened about 3 or 4 times. And I said, forget this. Let me just go onto YouTube. Right. I was actually reluctant to even get in front of a camera because, again, I wasn't really on social media like that. Right. I was more of a introverted private person. But I got over that. And some of you can go back to the old videos. Right. The delivery was terrible. Right. But over the course of several years, I started to improve upon that. I laugh all the time because I started on an iPhone 5. I had a wealth of knowledge before I even started creating videos. So it wasn't like, oh, let me just start making videos and, regurgitate information, which a lot of people do. I'm not knocking them, but it wasn't, oh, let me become a YouTuber because I want to be a YouTuber so bad. That wasn't the case. Before I started putting videos on YouTube, what you would find was that most of the topics around financial institution, credit cards would just be the big banks, right? So people would talk about Chase, American Express, Navy Federal. There's literally, channels where that's all they talk about, like Chase, Navy Federal, American Express, not really diving into these other institutions, CDFIs, credit unions besides Navy Federal, fintech companies, right? And so I found a lane with that where I was going to research that information and then start to share that information with people. And so over the course of that time, we've literally put a lot of institutions on the map, and I'm gonna go over some of those today. And, a lot of people either took that information and ran with it, regurgitated, recycled it. And a lot of this information is now more widely available. But if a lot of people want to be honest, a lot of the credit union information, fintech information, no one on YouTube, at least, was even talking about that information until I started putting that out. And then people really got to understand, okay, these are different institutions that I can go to. People use the term data points. And again, I didn't invent that term, but now it's being more freely thrown out, right? So I just wanted to share, exactly why I put information out there, and it's really to help people, right? And I'm gonna go over some stats and then we'll go into some of these financial institutions. But I just wanted to give context to maybe some people who, they don't know my backstory. My title while I was working in corporate America. So for those who don't know, I retired from corporate America in 2021. So a little over 3 years ago, right? But up until that point, for 13 years, I worked for different management consulting firms like Accenture. That was the last job that I had where I worked as a data scientist. So some of the clients I had included, for example, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Commodities Future and Trading Commission, right? And so what I would do is I work with a lot of these different statistical programming softwares, database relationship management. So, querying different databases, moving data, transforming data. So, I have a lot of proficiencies when it comes to programming, right? Applying different quantitative techniques and even deploying different machine learning algorithms, right? So my background is literally in research methods, right? We used to do a lot of statistical analysis. There was a software called SAS. I think now it's SAS Viya, which is the cloud version of it. But you pull data into from different data sources, you transform it, and then you basically put it in a format where then you could run different, let's say, regression analysis or bivariate statistics, descriptive statistics, right? So that's basically what I did for, the better part of 13 years. I just so happened to apply those research techniques to the credit space, right? So again, my, I guess, core competency is not being a social media influencer, is not getting behind the camera, it's not creating content, it's not my charisma, it's really my ability to research, right? And that's how I've been able to uncover a lot of this information about financial institutions and their underwriting and different data points, right? So that's kind of how I came into, the YouTube or social media space. But I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not a social media influencer. I'm just a researcher who just so happened to put information that I gathered over the course of 13 years onto YouTube, right? So just to clarify that, but without getting off track, I wanted to share one of the main motivations behind why I do what I do, right? Why I'm always seeking out information about financial institutions, trying to figure out how to get more access to capital, because I've seen what the difference is, even in the quality of life, having access to financial resources versus not having it, right? And I wanted to share something with you because, again, like I said, I think sometimes people get overly emotional when I'm just sharing objective research and information, right? So this was, let me actually share my screen real quick. So right here, this is a report from the Urban Institute. And as a matter of fact, I actually indirectly worked with Urban Institute way back in the day. So they're a social policy research organization, and they put this out here. So I just wanted to share this with you, right? So this graphic shows young adults in majority Black and Hispanic communities and the median credit scores, right, compared to young adults in majority white communities, right? So in this blue, you have majority Black, yellow is majority Hispanic, and then the Black is majority white. So this shows the median credit scores of young adults based on these different age brackets. So this first set, you have 18 to 20, then you have 21 to 24, and then 25 to 29. And again, don't shoot the messenger. This is a major social policy research organization who came up with this. And if anyone wants to actually look at this information, I've dropped a link in the description of the video. I'm just reporting on what those findings were, right? So as you see, between the ages of 18 and 20, the median credit score, and they use Vantage score, right? So for those who don't know, median is the midpoint, essentially. So what that means is that 50% have scores below that and 50% higher than that, right? So when we're looking at the age range of 18 to 20, the median for young adults in majority Black communities is a 653, and majority Hispanic is a 666, and majority white, it's a 677, right? Then as people, get a little bit older, you see between the age range of 18 to 20, for young Black adults, it drops to a 597. So what we know about a 597 is the fact that that's subprime credit. There's very few things you can get approved for with a 597. All right. And then, looking at the majority Hispanic, that also decreases, but not as dramatically. Right. Looking at, the majority white neighborhoods, it actually increases slightly. But even just looking at, these two groups, right, like the Hispanic, it decreases, slightly, about 20 points when we're looking from 18 to 20 to 25 to 29. It decreases, right? For whites, it's increasing. Or I would say, if you really think about it, it's almost like staying the same for the white group, right? But as you see, for majority, Black communities, the young adults, their credit scores are decreasing as they get older. So as they're going further into adulthood, the credit scores are going down when they should be going up, right? Because, you should have more financial discipline as you get older, as you become more mature, as you start to step into, your peak earnings, right? So this is a major disparity that we see, right? That credit scores in majority Black communities are decreasing. So again, I'm not going to speculate on the reasons of why that is, but there's definitely something going on where that needs to change, right? Because it shouldn't be that way. Your financial status, your credit score should be increasing over time, right? But as we see, it's not. So there definitely needs to be more education and more information to change that trajectory, right? And then another thing I wanted to also share with you, I think I've done this a couple of times already. Now, again, this shows the median credit scores in the United States, right? And they have a bunch of other statistics here, right? I'm not going to get into all of it, but when we're looking at the median credit score in the United States, right? So just let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better, okay? So this graphic over here to the right, it basically plots the lines from February 20 to August 2021. And we know during that period, right, like a lot of stimulus. So overall, the national the median across the United States actually increased during that period. So in February of 2020, it was at a 693. And then by, I guess, the August of 21, it was a 709, right? Because stimulus checks, PPP, everything, people had money, so they were able to pay down their debts, therefore increase their credit score. Also, you had a lot of, moratoriums, people didn't have to pay student loans. There were forgiveness for different loans and stuff like that. So overall credit scores increased. But just looking at this chart right here, when we look at the medians, right? Overall, a 693. Native American communities, a 585. But again, remember, that's a small portion of the overall population. The Black community, a 593. Hispanic 652, and white community 718. Right. So again, these are stats that are coming from the Urban Institute, right? And again, they're citing their sources from other publicly available data. So you could always fact check and do whatever it is. But the point remains, in terms of our community, when I say our community, I'm talking about Black Americans. We're at the lowest when it comes to nearly every statistical category on social economics, right? Credit scores, home ownership rates, net worth. So again, part of the reason why I do a lot of this is because I want to hopefully do my part to kind of educate people and, get them more access to financial resources, right? Because I was also at that point where, when I was probably 18, 19, my credit score was probably like a 580, 600 something, right? Basically what this chart was essentially showing, right? Actually, it was actually lower than this, right? So I started off even worse, to the point now where, well over 800, completely changed my financial trajectory. And a lot of that was due to just being knowledgeable of credit and having sound, financial discipline, right? And I say all that to say that it's possible for anyone. It doesn't matter. But not to get too off track, right? So I just wanted to, sort of address this thing and just let people know, like, there is a way to overcome whatever financial difficulties that you may find yourself in. And I like to use myself just as an example. Someone who grew up in public housing, food stamps, Section 8, student loans, things like that, right? And then ultimately working my way up to the point now where I help businesses and other individuals get access to millions of dollars on a monthly basis. Over the past 5 years, we've done over $50 million in loan approvals. And that's just what we can track. let's go over some financial institutions, and I'm going to be giving you guys some data points. So I know a lot of people are hung up off Navy Federal, but again, there's so many more institutions than Navy Federal. One of my favorite, again, this is, let me see if I could change this. NIH FCU, again, another institution we put on the map way back when. I think when we first did our review of NIH FCU, the website crashed, right? So some of the OG subscribers might remember that. But NIH changed their requirements. So at first, how I got into NIH FCU, I was working for a research company that so happened to do health outcomes research. So a lot of like pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Janssen, AstraZeneca, like those were like some of the clients that we would do research for. And again, I'm doing statistical analysis and stuff like that. So I found a way to kind of finesse where I could actually somehow use that to qualify, because traditionally they were just for like doctors, nurses, anyone who worked in the medical or biomedical field, right? But they've since changed that. So if you want to join, you can join through the American Consumer Council. So just to kind of let you guys know, they've opened up eligibility, right? So anyone can pretty much join. So right here, as you can see, if none of these other things qualify, you can join through the American Consumer Council. Now, one of the reasons why I love NIH FCU, again, available nationwide. You can also double dip, right? So what double dip means is that, let's say you want to get a credit card, you want to get a line of credit or personal loan, you can get all of those just with one inquiry. Now, real quick, honestly, I think pound for pound, they offer better products than Navy Federal. So when we look at their credit cards, I think they changed a little bit, but right now they have a couple credit cards. This is a 2.99% intro for 12 months on balance transfers. It used to be 0%, but they changed a little bit. This card right here, the Visa Signature, earns 4% cash back, or 4% cashback points in the first 12 months and 3% thereafter. That's pretty solid. They have a couple other, they have the Signature card. They also have a Visa Platinum Secure credit card. Now, this goes up to $25,000, which is a game changer. Now, here's a little hack, right? Now, for those of you who may have less than perfect credit, and I know this is not like a popular thing to do, but this is something that I did very early on when I had blemishes on my credit, is that I would open up secured credit cards. Now, secured credit cards, in my opinion, are better than consumer finance accounts because it's actually bank issued, right? A Visa or MasterCard. So it's going to hold more weight. Now, I've gone over this before. FICO algorithms will penalize you for having too many consumer finance accounts. Now, what do I mean by consumer finance account? I mean like the Tomo Credit Builder or My Jewelers Club or any non-bank issue type of credit account. It doesn't hold the same weight because it doesn't undergo the same type of underwriting criteria, right? So this right here is a game changer because, again, it goes up to 25K. So let's say you're someone who has a good job, you have some savings, you could put this into, like, let's say a CD, and then the CDs right now are going to earn a little bit higher rate than they usually were. And then what happens is that this can upgrade. So as you can see right here, it says you may be able to upgrade your card with responsible use over time. Let me zoom in a little bit more so y'all can see. So the thing about the secure cards that graduate, where you get your money back and you get to keep the credit limit, that's actually how I was able to like build my credit up, build a strong foundation of accounts. I used the Navy Federal N Rewards, US Bank. You have a Discover card, Capital One, Bank of America. There's Academy Visa. Like, all these secure credit cards will give you your deposit back and allow you to graduate. So that's another little hack. If you do have less than perfect credit, you could start with the secure. But overall, NIH FCU, again, is one of the good ones out there. And Another thing is that they also offer a business credit card, right? Or at least so they still have the business credit card, right? Now, the game changer about this is that anyone nationwide can get this card. There's no geographic restrictions. Sometimes with credit unions, they will have like personal cards or personal products that anyone could get, but they'll restrict the business accounts to just local businesses within their branch footprint, right? This is the exception. So any member can get access to their business credit card, and they don't even do a hard inquiry on your credit. At least when I got the card, and a lot of subscribers did. Again, it could have changed since then, but they were not doing a hard pull on your credit, right? And then in terms of data points, so NIHFCU is going to pull Equifax as their primary credit reporting agency. However, here's a little thing. If you have your Equifax frozen, they'll use Experian as a backup. So just keep that in mind, right? So again, NIHFCU, great institution. The next one I really like, again, is DCU, Digital Credit Union. Now, what I really like, okay, they have credit cards, they have loans and stuff like that. But what's really a game changer is the quick loans, right? So the quick loans go up to $2,000, right? And so basically, as it says right here, all right, let me zoom in a little bit, because I know sometimes when I've done videos about this, some people weren't really aware of kind of how this works. So basically, the quick loan is like a kind of like a payday loan alternative. In order to be eligible for the quick loan, you must have membership for at least 180 days, which is about 6 months, right? So after that period, you can qualify for $2,000. So once you're a member for 180 days, you can get $2,000, and there's no hard credit check. So this is a game changer if you have less than perfect credit. But besides that, DCU has, the credit cards, auto loans and things like that. In terms of their credit products, I would say they're just basic. Their credit cards aren't too spectacular. And then, they have auto loans. So one thing, they do have auto loans. They're well known for that because they have just some specialty auto loan programs. They have antique auto loans. So if you're into antique cars and things like that, they specialize in that. And they will finance, I believe it's up to like 120% of the value of the car. So if you have any sort of aftermarket or any sort of add-ons that you have to do with the vehicle, they could finance more than what the actual car, the purchase price is, right? So in terms of data points, DCU is going to pull Equifax all day long. So that's another Equifax puller. Another one that I really, really like is CQ of Maryland. So SECU. Now there's a ton of SECUs. There's WSECU. There's PSECU. There's a SECU in Maryland, in North Carolina. So they have a couple of them. But it's interesting when you see, like, for example, when if you Google like the largest credit unions, SECU is I guess I want to say probably top 10, but what they do is they group all of them together. So they count all of them together, right? So it stands for State Employees Credit Union. But yeah, SECU is a game changer. Again, this is the official banking partner of the Maryland Terrapins, largest credit union in Maryland. And I love them. They pull Equifax all day on the personal side. You can double dip. So in terms of like their credit cards, they have some pretty good credit cards. They have personal lines of credit. What else? They got personal loans. They got CD secured loans or share secure loans. And then what I really like, so I also, since I'm in Maryland, I'm eligible to get like the business loans and lines of credit and credit cards. So you can also double dip on the business side. So with the business lines of credit, you do have to have 2 years of tax returns. So that's one thing. The credit card, you don't. So you can double dip. And they use a third party company on the business side. So it's a separate underwriting. If I recall, at one point, it was pretty much open. But let me just double check while we're on this live to see what the eligibility criteria is, because I believe, let me just double check this real quick, because some people said that they weren't able to get in. I know some people from out of state were. Okay. So here we go. This is another little loophole, right? Of let's say, okay, so if you're an employer, current or past, if you've gone to any school, university, Maryland State Agency, or family member, but you see right here, it says, don't see the SEC connection. Don't worry. You can still join through a one-time donation to the CQ Maryland Foundation. So this is a way, if you wanted to get into SECU, and let's say you live out of state, you can get in through the SECU Foundation. So all you got to do is make a minimum donation, and then that allows you to become eligible to join SECU of Maryland. And again, this credit union is in my opinion better than Navy Federal, way better than Navy Federal. Next one on the list, again, this is another, local institution, but eligibility is wide open. And on the low, Security Plus Federal Credit Union is giving out the bag, man. A lot of people don't know. So Security Plus is based out of Baltimore. I did a sponsored video about maybe a year and a half ago. And again, in terms of their products, they have the credit cards, the personal loans. They also have business loans, lines of credit. Another thing, too, is you don't have to be in the particular area to join Security Plus, right? So it's going to be open to pretty much, anybody, right? So one of the most valuable things that you can do when it comes to credit unions is join what's called the American Consumer Council. The American Consumer Council will literally get you into not thousands, but maybe hundreds of credit unions, right? So I think it's like a $15 for a lifetime membership. That right there is your ticket into dozens of credit unions. So Security Plus being one of them. They are TransUnion puller. So I know a lot of people look for institutions that pull TransUnion. This will be one of them. And again, on the low, they're giving out a bag. A lot of people don't really know that, but I'm local to the area, and a lot of people with, let's say, not the best credit are getting access to, $10, $15, $20,000 credit card limits. And another thing about Security Plus that I really like is the fact they have these no credit check loans. So let me explain that. Kind of like with DCU. Right. So they have what's called a quick cash loan. So the quick cash loan, you can borrow up to they'll start you off with 500. Once you pay one of them off, you can get up to $1,000. And as it says right here, no credit check required. So they're not even going to pull your credit. The caveat to that is that you do have to show some form of proof of income. So that could be your two most recent pay stubs. Now, for those of you who've been following me for a while, if you have a business, an LLC, you can sign it with ADP. I'll drop a link in the description of the video. With ADP, you can literally create your own pay stubs and then utilize that as proof of income when you're trying to get access to a lot of these loans. So again, let's say you have very bad credit right now, right? You can join Security Plus. If you have an LLC, maybe you have a shelf corp, get set up with ADP. All you got to do is run payroll for two cycles, get those pay stubs, and then that could be proof of income, right? There's another way of getting pay stubs. I'm not going to go into that because I know that might, attract the wrong crowd. But there is a way of creating your pay stubs where, let's say, you're not running a direct deposit, but rather you're just cutting a check. Right. Or theoretically cutting a check. Right. But everything is above board. It checks out. All the paperwork documents are being filed with the IRS. So anyways, Security Plus Federal Credit Union is another great gem. And I'm going to do a whole separate video on the business side because they got a lot of great products on there. The next one I wanted to go over, anyone can join Patelco Credit Union. This is out on the West Coast. And with Patelco, what I really like about Patelco is they have pretty much like this. What is it called? Let me see. They have a particular line of credit. Let me see if they still have it. They may have taken it away. At one point they had, let me see, maybe it's on the personal loans. So again, they have all the personal loans, personal lines of credit. Okay, right here. So they have what's called a Score Up Credit Builder. So this is a credit builder account, but this right here is a game changer, the instant backup line of credit. So this is pretty much like a overdraft. You can get up to $500 in basically overdraft protection for your checking account. But as it says right here, let me zoom in a little bit more because I know it's probably hard to see. There's no credit check required. So think about that. You can get basically up to $500 with no credit check, and it will help you with building credit, right? So Patelco is definitely a really good credit union, pretty much open to anyone. So definitely check out Patelco. The next one I wanted to go over is Justice Federal Credit Union. Now, again, this is open to anyone. There is a particular way that you can get in. I've gone over this before. So basically, you have a couple of institutions that you can join. So let me just go over this real quick in terms of the different. Actually, let me get out of here. So in terms of eligibility, there are a couple like nonprofit organizations that you can join. Let me see if. Okay. And they literally tell you like all the associations that you can join, right? So they have this right here. So it says donors, members of Concerns of Police Survivors, Justice Federal Credit Union would donate $5. So this is a nonprofit. And of course, if you have, any family members or anything in law enforcement or ties to the law enforcement community, you can join. Now, again, open to anyone. Now, I will say they're a little bit more conservative in terms of their underwriting. But what I really like about Justice Federal Credit Union, they have one of the highest limits in terms of personal lines of credit, PLOCs. So they have what's called the Justice Line, which goes up to $40,000, no collateral. Most, I would say, credit, like a lot of the PLOCs that I've seen usually go up to like 25K. A lot of the credit, they'll give you a higher credit card limit than usually a line of credit limit. But Justice Federal Credit Union goes up to a pretty high line of credit. They also have a credit builder loan account that goes up to $2,500. But I think probably they're one of their best products if you're into 0% personal credit cards. This by far, I think, is the best 0% card that's out there, right? So all of their cards, right? So as you can see, 0%, zero interest for 18 months on purchases and balance transfers. But here's the kicker, right? Most accounts, for example, let's say if they have 0% on balance transfer, they're going to charge you a balance transfer fee. Justice Federal Credit Union will not charge you a balance transfer fee. So as you see right here, on all of their credit cards, 0% balance transfer fee on all of them and no annual fees on all of them. So essentially with Justice Federal Credit Union, you can transfer a balance. Let's say you have a high interest or high interest and a high balance on a credit card, personal credit card. You could transfer that over with no fees, no balance transfer fee, and you're getting 0% for 18 months or 21 months? Yeah, 18 months. That right there is a game changer. Let me know in the comment section if anyone knows of any other 0% personal or even maybe business credit cards where they're not 0% on purchase, balance transfers. Oh, cash advances. I forgot. 0% on cash advances, right? That is a game changer. So you could literally draw cash, get cash off of the card without paying the cash advance APR, 0% cash advance APR. Now, let me just double check. Yeah, so this right here is probably one of the best credit cards. So if anyone knows of any other credit cards where there's 0% balance transfer and no balance transfer fee. Most credit cards are going to charge you like a if it has 0% balance transfer, it's going to charge you like 3 to 4% or sometimes 5% on the balance transfer. So you're still getting taxed kind of, and your balance is actually increasing when you make that transfer over. But with this right here is a game changer. I don't really know anyone that's better than that. Now, in terms of data points, Justice FCU is going to pull Equifax. They're Equifax all day. You will need POI, so they will ask for either a W-2, a personal tax, or I think they want to see like at least 2 months of pay stubs, right? And again, if you have ADP or if you have a regular job, that shouldn't be a problem at all. The next one I wanted to go over was Langley Federal Credit Union, right? I think Langley's somewhere in like the Richmond, Virginia area, but they're open to anyone nationwide, right? So Langley, again, is a Equifax puller. They got personal and business. So again, they got small business lines of credit, they go up to 25K. They got the credit cards. They have the PLOCs, credit builders, basically everything. Like Langley is actually one of the most underrated credit unions out there. And you can double dip on credit cards, personal loans, lines of credit, auto loans with the same inquiry as long as it's within a 30-day period. So that's another advantage with a lot of these credit unions, the fact that you can double dip. So before I get ahead of myself, let me just let you know the institutions that you can double dip. NIH, you can double dip. DCU, you can double dip. Security Plus, you can double dip. Patelco, I'm not 100% sure. Justice, you can double dip. And the thing with Justice, the inquiry is good for 60 days, not 30. So they give you 60 days where you can get as many credit accounts up to your maximum exposure without incurring additional hard inquiries, right? Langley Federal, you can also double dip. The next one I wanted to go over was Fed Choice Federal Credit Union, right? So this is another one that's going to be open to essentially anyone nationwide. Now, one of the drawbacks I would say with Fed Choice, I'm not sure if this is still the case, but when myself and other clients had applied a couple years ago, they were doing a hard inquiry on membership. Now, I'm not sure if that's still the case in 2024. But again, this is another one where they have a lot of great credit products. I wanted to highlight some of their personal loan products, right? So again, they have personal loans. They have a line of credit, a credit builder, but they also have this cash and carry loan, right? So basically, this cash and carry loan, again, is very similar to the DCU quick loan, the Security Plus quick loan, where you can get up to, let's say $1,000. They just want to make sure you have proof of income. They actually require a direct deposit with Fed Choice for 3 months from the same employer to access that. And so that's just one thing. And with a lot of these, you do have to be a member for a certain time period and in good standing. But again, very underrated. And Fed Choice is a TransUnion puller. So another, one for TransUnion. Next up on the list, we have NASA Federal Credit Union. So again, NASA is a game changer. What I really like about them is the fact that they have credit cards, personal loans, personal lines of credit where you can get just with a soft pull, right? To get pre-qualified. So you could always check your rate. And when you check your rate, they basically will tell you whether or not you qualify without affecting your credit score, right? So this is another really good one. Again, this is open nationwide. There's no geographic restrictions, at least on the personal side, right? So personal, again, as I said earlier in the video, there's a lot of credit unions where you can get personal products, but the business products are going to be more local. So with NASA, it's basically, I think it's DC, Maryland, Virginia, maybe Delaware. So it's not going to be for everyone, but I did just want to show the different products on the business side. So they got business credit cards, they have business lines of credit, vehicle loans, working capital loans. So the limits go up to about, I think overall like 2 million, or at least with the business loans. But yeah, this is another way underrated financial institution. And in terms of data points, they are going to pull from Experian. So that's an Experian puller. Another great one, anyone can join, Wings Credit Union. They got personal and business accounts. Again, there's no geographic restrictions. Anyone can check them out. This one is an underrated one, Veridian Credit Union, right? So Veridian Credit Union, I believe they're headquartered in like Iowa, somewhere like in the Midwest, but they have some pretty decent products, right? Now, their business products are going to be more local. Again, you have to be, I think it's like 2 states that I want to say, I know Iowa definitely, I forget the other state, but I know it's only 2 states, and they're a little bit different because they're going to ask for docs on like the business credit cards and stuff like that. But I did want to share the fact that they have a handful of different personal loans. Now, I believe they go through a couple different underwriting systems depending on what you're applying for, right? And so this is something to just be aware of, right? So the payday loan alternative, again, this is like a no credit check, up to $1,000. Let me zoom in. This is kind of small. So up to $1,000. They do that internally. Then they have, a line of credit, and they have two different personal loans. So they have what's called the regular personal loan, which goes up to $40,000. And then they have the premier personal loan, which you'll qualify for a lower rate. And that also goes up to $40,000 as well. Right. So pretty good products. And again, this is a TransUnion puller. Next up on the list, we got Liberty Federal Credit Union. So Liberty Federal Credit Union is another underrated, not very well known. They actually won an award for one of the best credit unions, if not the best credit union in the nation. Again, they got personal loans, credit cards, pretty much everything. Now, I want to say, okay, so here's one thing I wanted to just share with you guys, right? If you're into credit unions, tapping into some of the credit union funding, you got to know about this company right here. It's called WithClutch. So WithClutch is the leading loan origination company for credit unions, and they're exclusively credit unions, right? So as it says right here, turn your credit union into a fintech. So what they're doing basically is they're modernizing credit unions that have been so outdated when it comes to tech or having these streamlined applications. So I know for a fact, just internal information, that they're onboarding a ton of new credit unions by the end of this year and going into next year. So this is the top company when it comes to loan originations or loan origination systems for credit unions. So basically, credit unions use WithClutch. And here's just a couple of examples, right? You can literally go on their website if you want to get some game on like which credit unions use this platform. They're going to share similar data points, right? So you got Chevron Federal Credit Union, Lafayette Federal Credit Union, Stanford Federal Credit Union. I've reviewed a ton of these. Now, the dope thing about WithClutch is that you can get any of the credit unions that use them for their loan origination. You could basically go and like, for example, so I said Liberty is one of them, right? And the way it'll say powered by WithClutch, right? So whenever you see that, okay, if I go through this process, all I got to do is put in my cell phone number, and then after that, you can get pre-qualified for offer. So your cell phone number, I think they might ask you for either your name or date of birth or something like that, but they don't even ask you for your full SSN. They basically have a connection with Experian where, whatever number you have listed that's attached to that account. So using that and like your date of birth, they can pull in your information just on a soft pull, and you can get offers. So this is how a lot of our clients are able to run up a lot of money with the credit unions. Another underrated one, Christian Community, open to anyone, loans, credit cards and everything. They also use WithClutch. So just to give you an example, so let's say you go here and let's say you go to credit cards, right? And you just go to get started. I guess down there. So actually, let me see. Let's go to apply today. So let's just do here. I'm just going to put mine in real quick just to see what happens. All right. So you see that powered by WithClutch, right down here. All right. So same exact loan origination process, right? Another underrated one is going to be United States Senate Federal Credit Union. I did a whole review on this. I'm not going to get into all their products, but again, open to anyone nationwide. I believe it's the American Consumer Council that can get you into here. They also do mortgage lending in all 50 states, and you can get a pre-approval letter. They're going to pull all three of your credit reports when you apply for the mortgage. If you're just applying for personal products, I believe it's just going to be Equifax. So again, they got a lot of great products. Again, this one is underrated. Personal loans, personal lines of credit. They even have this like bridge to retirement loans for people who are planning a retirement soon. And they also have business lines of credit, business term loans. So again, this one's another underrated one. State Department Federal Credit Union, again, open to anyone nationwide. I believe they pull from Experian, so another good one. So again, I just gave you guys how many? I think maybe like 10 or so different credit unions. But again, you can check out WithClutch. So WithClutch, I think they work with probably almost close to, I want to say at least 60 credit unions, probably more. They're currently onboarding a bunch of credit unions. I know for a fact, even some of the credit union partners I've worked with or currently work with or work with in the past are exploring WithClutch as one of their fintech partners for loan origination system. So just to clarify, WithClutch is not a lender. They're basically just enabling credit unions specifically to streamline their underwriting process. So instead of you waiting, 2 weeks or a month to get a lending decision, you can get it almost instantly or within, a day or so. So definitely a game changer. I wanted just to do this video to share with you that there's other institutions besides Navy Federal. There's a lot more institutions, a lot more money you can get, and arguably better financial products out there than Navy Federal. So if you're having a hard time with Navy Federal, or if you're upset with Navy Federal, it's not the end of the world. You definitely have a lot of options out there. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Like, what are some of your favorite non-Navy Federal credit unions out there? So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in today's live. So if you're seeking, other alternatives or looking to expand your access to financial resources, especially right now, credit unions are going to be where it's at, particularly if you have less than perfect credit, right? So because credit unions are going to be more so able to work with you. Before we wrap up, I also wanted to just let you guys know about this. I did a video on the Patreon about this, right? So this used to be one of my favorite credit unions, but I've since kind of switched up on them because they've been extremely hard to crack, right? So some of you might be familiar with First Tech Credit Union. So First Tech, I want to say they're like the 6th or 7th largest credit union by assets in the United States. They're up there. They're definitely top 10 for sure. But they have pretty high limits on their credit cards. Like a lot of you guys know, like the Choice Rewards and the Odyssey credit card has limits to go up to 100,000. I think the starting limit for the Odyssey Rewards Visa is 25,000. So if you get approved, you're getting 25,000 right out the gate, right? So this was one of my cards that I wanted to apply for. But here's the thing with First Tech. First Tech is very conservative, and it doesn't matter all the time if you have a high income and an 850 credit score, 820 credit score, right? If you have too much available credit at other institutions, they're not even going to want to deal with you. So I've found that, let's say people who have already, let's say you have a couple 100,000 in personal credit already. Let's say you have, 300, you have excessive credit cards, like which a lot of subscribers do, right? It's going to be almost impossible to get in with First Tech because they don't like to see that their borrowers have a lot of available credit. So that's just one of the caveats. I'm no longer a big fan of them because, again, it doesn't always seem like if you have a high credit score or a long credit history that you can crack First Tech. So this is one that I probably wouldn't recommend, depending on where you are in your credit journey. Now, let's say you have maybe, you have a good credit score. Let's say you have over 700, and maybe you have, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 credit cards, right? Nothing crazy, like not over like 10 or 15, 20 credit cards. Then I think First Tech might be an option, because my hypothesis is that First Tech tries to get the customers when they're kind of on their way up in their credit journey, not once you've already had high limits at all these other banks, So anyways, I just wanted to share that quick data point. I did have a Patreon member who shared some data points on First Tech. This is someone who had over an 800 credit score. And again, I did a whole video if anyone's interested. High household income. And now First Tech uses Plaid when you apply for a credit card or a personal loan. So they they analyze your banking data. And so this individual, steady paychecks, I think they had over 6 figures in their checking account, and they got denied from First Tech, which, just didn't make any sense. So anyways, just wanted to share that data point. But yeah, let me know, what are your favorite credit unions down in the comment section besides Navy Federal, right? Because again, I just wanted to lay out some other options besides Navy Federal that you guys could seek out. But anyways, that's all for today's live stream. Let me know your comments and questions down below. And until next time, take it easy, and we'll talk to you soon.